Any further discussion? Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ward. This is a very good thing.
Any further discussion?
Let's do this.
All right, let's please have a roll call vote.
Christensen,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7I is change of zone 20040, application of American Nebraska Limited Partnership from R2 Residential District to B1 Local Business District on property generally located at 3930 South Street, introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Introduced by Raybold, seconded by Washington. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. 7J is change of zone 15016B, application of Lincoln Federal Bank Corp., Inc. to amend the Wilderness Creek Planned Unit Development by revising the site plan to add multifamily housing and a change of zone from R3 Residential District to R5 Residential District on property generally located at South 33rd Street and Wilderness Hills Boulevard, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Raybold, seconded by Christensen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7K is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter C by creating the classification of one-call technician, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Raybold, seconded by Christensen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Washington,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7L is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefixed by the letter A by creating the classification of right-of-way superintendent, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced, seconded by Christensen.
Nope, over here.
Oh, Schob. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7M is amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefix by the letter N by creating the classification of utility locate technician, introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Introduced by Raybold, seconded by Washington. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Ward,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7N is amending the employee group whose classifications are assigned to pay range which is prefixed by the letter A to change the title of Assistant City Auditor to Assistant City Controller, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Raybold, seconded by Christensen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Raybold, seconded by Christensen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7Q, amending the pay schedule for the employee group whose classifications are assigned to the pay range prefix by the letter A by deleting the classification for Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Water Pollution Control, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Christensen. Any further discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call vote?
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Item 7R is amending Title 11 of the Lincoln Municipal Code to incorporate the Youth Mental Health Protection Ordinance prohibiting conversion therapy for minors, which seeks to change the minor's sexual orientation or gender identity. It was introduced by Bowers.
Mr. Chair, oh, may I go ahead and move that?
So moved.
So moved, thank
Can-
you.
Please get a second.
Second.
seconded by Raybold. Any discussion? We'll start with Councilwoman Raybold.
Well, first of all, I have to thank Councilman Bowers for introducing this very important piece of legislation. And I have to thank so many who came out and testified. We had a great attendance of people. And I really want to thank all those who continued to submit emails to us with their comments and concerns. I have to tell you, it was truly heartening to see that even those that opposed this amendment change to Title 11 all agreed that conversion therapy is harmful, especially after many heard testimony from so many survivors. Even so, after hearing some testimony, there was a lot of misinformation presented by those opposed to this amendment. I'm referencing the ACLU because they provided a very thorough analysis concerning the restrictions that were alleged to our First Amendment rights of free speech and religious expression. They wrote, the proposed Lincoln Ordinance is limited to minors, and it only limits medical professionals from conducting sexual orientation change efforts. Pastors and other faith leaders would not be prohibited from preaching what they believe regarding sexual beliefs. This works to hold individuals that hold a professional mental health or medical licenses abide by the standards of care, code of ethics, and not use harmful practice. The proposed ordinance also does not prohibit professionals from talking to their clients about sexual orientation or gender identity issues. Conversion therapy is a form of medical treatment, albeit an unethical and disavowed one. The proposed Lincoln Ordinance targets the quality and type of care that licensed professionals can provide to a minor patient. This ordinance protects the provider's ability to express his or her opinion regarding conversion therapy. This ordinance does not compel providers to disclose facts or information with which they disagree. This ordinance does not limit what religious leaders and parents can say to children. This ordinance does not limit providers from discussing, seeking sexual orientation change effort treatment options. The only thing the ordinance prohibits the therapist from doing is actually performing conversion therapy on a minor, given the significant risk of harm. So for this reason and the reason of so many of those who testified in support of this amendment, I will support this as well.
Thank you, Councilwoman Raybold. Councilman Christensen?
I have a question for law, city law. Do we have someone here from there? Here we go.
Johansi Christie, City Attorney. We were always here when you were here.
I knew it.
Councilman Christie.
So the state of Nebraska regulates professional licensure. Does this change that relationship by having the city regulate these professional licenses?
When you say change the relationship,
Where the city has not in the past regulated licensure by the state or approved activities or disapproved activities under the description of a licensed professional?
the way that I would answer that, and I think maybe this will get there are instances where the city has gotten involved with, in other instances where the state is responsible for licensing. It doesn't happen all the time. The main, without getting too much into the weeds, the main concern is it inconsistent, right? We talk about preemption, either express preemption, conflict, or field preemption. And I think that that's kind of what your question is getting at. We have, while not directly on point, but I think, and maybe not perfect examples, but both 7F and 7G today kind of dealt with that, where you have the city, at least involved with, in a situation where the state is also responsible for licensing. You see that food code, maybe a little bit with liquor license as well. So it's not completely unheard of.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Councilwoman Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 2 weeks ago, I heard many people speak passionately against conversion therapy, some from personal experience, which was horrifying, cruel, and abusive, and I listened as nearly the same number of people denounced the cruel and abusive practices described as unacceptable. This is where we agree. Abuse is abuse. Shaming and bullying are not therapeutic treatments employed by credible, licensed medical, mental health, and medical practitioners. Many of the individuals who testified in dozens of emails in the same vein argued that the ordinance as written would bar a parent from teaching their own children their Christian beliefs, or would bar a minister from offering counseling that directs a young person to look to the Bible. That is not true. The ordinance as written would not ban counseling that seeks understanding, provides supports, facilitates a person's identity exploration and development. It doesn't prohibit a parent's ability to teach their children their values and core beliefs, and it doesn't limit what a minister says. It does not limit his or her ability to offer religious and pastoral counseling to their young congregants from whatever their religious position. Passing this ordinance doesn't ban the free exercise of religion as promised in our Constitution, but it does ban a discredited therapeutic practice that has been deemed immoral, unethical, and ineffective by the American Psychological Association, the American Medical Association, and the American Counseling Association, and others. I will be voting to ban this practice of conversion therapy with minors, and I will also defend each of our rights to practice our religion as we see fit.
Thank you, Councilwoman Washington. Councilwoman Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also am going to vote in support of this ordinance. I think it's really important for Lincoln. I think it's who we are as an inclusive city. Just a couple of reasons. I want to tell you why I support this ordinance. Healthcare providers would be found negligent upon employing any outdated surgical techniques. This is no different to me than that. There's also no evidence that suggests conversion therapy is effective. There is evidence, however, that proves conversion therapy leads to higher risk of depression, substance abuse, and sometimes loss of faith. I also heard during our public hearing that 85 other municipalities across the country have banned conversion therapy. That speaks very loudly to me as well. And lastly, I'll just say, reiterate what Councilwoman Washington said. This is a human rights issue, and for me, that's fundamental. And we can do better, and we should. And if we've passed this ordinance, we do better as a community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ward. Any further discussion? I just have a statement that I would like to make also. And that's, fellow council members, thank you for allowing me to introduce this ordinance to protect youth mental health in our city by banning conversion therapy. People sharing their stories of survival takes a level of strength that many will never understand. Our neighbors bared their souls 2 weeks ago to share their stories of survival in an effort to help us get a better understanding on the realities of conversion therapy. They came up to publicly tell their experience for an ordinance that will not apply to them and won't undo the trauma that they experienced. They shared their past so the next generation won't have to relive it. Experts in mental health providers shared data, research, and best practices for individuals who are struggling with their sexual orientation and gender identity. They clearly laid out how this denounced treatment can lead to depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and suicide. They did this to protect the next generation from bad actors who share the same profession. Legal experts shared past court rulings and nuances taking time to respond to our questions to help outline that federal circuit courts have upheld similar ordinances, that this is not an infringement of speech, that talk therapy is a treatment, and that municipalities across our country are implementing similar protections, all to help protect the next generation. In my opening statement, I read part of a letter from the former founders, leaders, and providers of conversion therapy who have come out and said how toxic this practice is to the soul of a child. Now it's up to us, the Lincoln City Council, to protect the next generation. To protect the next generation for kids who grew up just like me. As I shared last week, there will be people watching who are still struggling with their sexual orientation or their gender identity, but struggling not because of what their heart tells them, but because of the fear imposed on them by society. Again, I say to those watching this alone in secret, trying to reconcile their shame and doubt, listen to the messages of survivors. Listen to the therapists and mental health providers and to our community that there is nothing wrong with you and that it does get better. As someone who has been in your shoes, my message to my brothers, sisters, and siblings who are still in the closet, please know that we will fight for you while you are in the closet, and we will be here to love you when you decide it's time to come out. That message saves lives, and this vote will too. Thank you. May we please have a roll call vote?
And we're calling on the vote for the motion by ward, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Christensen,
No.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-1.
Thank you. May we please move on to the next item?
Item 7S is amending Chapter 2.18 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to the purchasing division by amending Sections 2.18.020, 2.18.030 to allow city departments to make purchases under $10,000 to be called micro purchases without soliciting competitive quotations under certain circumstances as specified therein, and repealing Sections 2.18.020 and 2.18.030 of the Lincoln Municipal Code as hereto existing. Introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Introduced by Raybold, seconded by Christensen. Any discussion? Seeing none, may we please do a roll call vote?
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Raybold,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay. That concludes our ordinance's third reading and related resolutions. Our resolutions' first readings are items 8A through 8F. And our pending list is items 9A through 9G.
Councilman Christensen?
Mr. Chair, at this time I move removal of item 9D, 21R-9 from the agenda.
Second.
Okay. Moved in by Councilman Christensen, seconded by Councilman Schob. Any discussion? Councilwoman Raybold?
Clarification, you want to remove it completely from the agenda? Is that-
Correct.
Any further discussion?
So it'll go away. We'll never have a public hearing. We'll never discuss it.
Until it's ready to come back at some point in the future.
At that point, it'll be reintroduced as a new resolution.
Right, but no time really soon, I don't think.
Any other discussion?
I have a clarification from our city attorney. I don't know if that is permissible, because you can take an item from pending and put it back on the agenda.
We have on many occasions taken items off of the pending and removed them completely from the agenda at the request of the author of the issue. It's been done by people on, it's not so irregular, but it's been done by this council.
I didn't hear all of it. I was back there, but the way I understand it is I believe Councilman Christensen is asking to remove it completely. And I think
I
Councilperson
just needed to
Rabel,
get it clarified, and I realize that Councilman Christensen is correct, that we can and have removed items from the agenda.
I was going to suggest just vote on it. I think that the motion can be made. So. Yeah.
Councilwoman
Mr.
Washington.
Chairman, now that I've been schooled that I should keep the rules with me at all times, it is there in the very last line on pending list that any pending item may be withdrawn at any meeting by 4 votes. Simple majority.
Any further discussion? I think my response is, I thought that you were going to introduce something that would do something different. I did not know that you were going to remove it from the agenda, so I'm a little
Well,
caught
actually,
off guard.
I anticipated perhaps taking it off of no date certain, or suspending the rules to allow people to testify on this subject, actually. And that takes 5 votes, whereas removing it from the agenda takes 4.
Councilwoman Raybold?
Well, I have to be honest, I am not going to support the motion to remove from the list. I don't know if you are aware, but we have been having discussions and outreach to Jim David Saver and to Johansi to see if we could schedule further discussion on this item and get a briefing for all of us on the implications of reintroducing it in a different format, reintroducing or taking action on this, and the consequences that it could possibly have on our federal funding, the aid that we have been using for those who are facing evictions, for child care centers that are facing closure, for child care assistance to family members. So I will not be supporting this until we have had an opportunity in the very near future that we're trying to schedule to have further discussion amongst ourselves to talk about the impact it will have to us being able to deliver services to our community and maintain the funding level that we are receiving and hope to continue to receive from the federal government.
Councilwoman Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too, Councilman Christensen, I'm not going to support your motion to remove it, and I want to say why, and that is when I voted to put this on pending, no date certain, I still want to have that discussion, and I want to have a public hearing. It's just not today. And I think by removing it takes away that mechanism for things we have talked about, as Councilwoman Raybold said, and our plan to talk about it as a council next week. So I just want us to continue, and I don't want it gone because I think it's a mechanism that creates yet another layer of a problem that we don't need to work through because I think we're getting there. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
My response to that would be, there is nothing, if this is removed today, there is nothing prohibiting any member of this council from reintroducing this in any form they want.
Councilwoman Washington?
I was really looking forward to learning more about the implications, and so I would like to know, do we have the authority, even if this is removed from the agenda, to still have like a pre-council or in a directors meeting so that we can learn a little bit more about all the implications? Because frankly, I wanted to hear from the gentleman at Emergency Services.
Monte Cristi City Attorney, I would say yes. I think so.
Thank you.
Councilman Shob?
Yeah, I was just going to say what the city attorney said. We have pre-councils all the time about things we never vote on. So that doesn't prohibit that. I would like to remind everyone that we all had talked about the resolution ahead of time. And we all were going to, I was going to vote no on Mr. Christensen's resolution to end the emergency declaration. So we all wanted it gone. I was going to vote no to make it go away. This actually makes it go away.
Yeah.
So I get what I want in the end if I vote yes now. The emergency declaration stays in place.
Any further discussion? Any other comments?
Well, I would just like to say I agree, and I think it's necessary that the emergency declaration stays in place without any further attempts to try to take away the authority and the ratification of that emergency declaration that came from the City Council. As we know, there are so many of our seniors who have yet to be vaccinated. There are so many of us who have not been vaccinated. Yet we are here in the chamber and listening to testimony about so many issues. But any further attempts without a great deal of understanding and a thorough briefing on the implications it could have to our community, I think it's fundamental that I would like to certainly have that discussion at the appropriate time. But I don't want it to be a mechanism for reintroducing it in another version or format without us having that thorough briefing at this time.
I'm sure if I will. I understand what you're saying. And I think, like all my colleagues here, we weren't anticipating this motion to be in front of us. We were all anticipating a different motion. And I don't think voting to kill the resolution now will preempt any of the other discussions you said, Ms. Rabel, Councilwoman Rabel. I think we can still have all those briefings. It'll have to be introduced again, and we can go through this whole process all over again, put it on pending again if it comes up again.
Councilwoman Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I could think to Councilman Shob, to your point, to vote to remove this, we do start over. And I don't think I think this is a mechanism that we don't need to do, because I think we all want to move forward with this when the time is appropriate. And to start all over may look a lot different than what we know we're working with. This council voted to put this on no date pending, no date certain as a council majority. And it's there for a reason. And I just think we need to support those actions we took as a majority before, and not create an opportunity to create something new and out of the ordinary for our state of emergency declaration till we know what that looks like, until we have time to do the briefings that we've talked about. So I appreciate your point of view.
Thank you for
Thank you.
acknowledging.
Likewise.
I still enjoy your company greatly, but I think this is just a different path to get to the same thing.
It is. It is. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I'd like a clarification, a yes vote and a no vote. What do they mean?
A yes vote removes this from the agenda.
And kills it, takes it out in the woods someplace and
Let's not use that analogy.
Okay.
Let's try something.
makes it go away forever.
Any
And a no
further
vote keeps it on the pending list.
Any other comments or any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, let's please have a roll call vote.
Washington,
Yes.
Ward,
No.
Christensen,
Yes.
Raybold,
No.
Schob,
Yes.
Bowers.
No.
Vote ties and it loses, right?
It
right.
loses.
One of two things happens to it. It either is considered to be lost or moved to the next council meeting when there will be no possibility of a tie. And I think that's the second one is what happens.
Well, can we have clarification, please, Mr. Chair?
Yeah,
And not guess.
City Attorney Christie.
Yes, I will, if I could have a moment. This is unusual. If, I don't know if I can,
Can you get back with us? Is that what you're asking?
yeah, I don't know if, I don't know if we can continue with the hearing and
It
then,
doesn't have to be decided now.
Exactly.
The motion has failed.
right,
The only
Final-
question is whether it comes back because it was a tie.
exactly. And I just want to have a little bit more time to look at it, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think, yes, I do agree, because it says final action on a bill requires either 4 votes in favor or 4 votes opposed. If the main motion on a bill does not receive the required 4 votes, the bill shall be automatically scheduled for a vote at the next regular meeting unless it is withdrawn, scheduled for continued public hearing or action on another date, or placed on pending.
I just wanted to have some time to look at it because I know that this is pending and
It's
so that
already
might be a
pending.
little different.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, I am familiar with that rule, but
Okay, thank you.
Well, then it goes on, and any other motion that does not receive the required number of votes shall fail, including a motion to amend, which requires a majority of the vote of those present and voting to pass.
So at present, it remains on the pending list.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could we have
Councilman
a
Rabel?
5-minute break?
Yes, let's
Uh,
take a 5-minute break,
Okay.
and we'll adjourn for 5 minutes.
So that's an hour and 10, right? At 5 minutes.
Okay. We can do it. We can do it.
All right, the council is now back in session. Before we go into public comment, I just want to address three things. Two of them I talked about earlier, but just to kind of go over again before I go into the third item. Last week, the community shared a concern to have more screens available to watch the meeting. We placed more chairs, more screens, and more space for individuals to watch their council meeting. We placed more chairs to encourage folks to spread out through the hallway. We have placed 4 screens in this hallway, and seating and screens are also available in the Luxford studio. In addition, you can watch the meeting on your phone at YouTube at LNK TV City. Over the next week, we'll be taking up the issue of how to best open the council chambers. Now that the COVID risk dial is in yellow, we must start making movement that mirrors what other groups are doing. When our council chair has returned, we will continue discussion on how to ensure that our meetings are accessible and safe for Lincolnites. I also understand that there are people who are here to talk about the emergency declaration, which was placed on pending no date certain. As a reminder, our rules do not allow for people to speak on an item that is on an agenda or set for a pending agenda. As we are following the rules tonight, we will follow the rules for this resolution. The council will not take action on a proposed resolution without giving adequate public notice. This means that when the council votes to move the proposed resolution to a second hearing, we will provide at least 2 weeks' notice for the public to be involved. The goal of this is to provide folks from all sides of this issue time to respond and to participate on public comment. If we deviate from this, then one group will have more opportunity to participate than another. I'm excited that folks are here to speak, and I would invite you to speak on this process, how we should open the council chamber, or any other issues that are important to you. But please help us follow the rules to maintain consistency and fairness for our community. Thank you. Go ahead and take the first person up for public comment, please.
Hello, Council. Thank you for hearing me this evening. 2 weeks ago, I came and gave you guys some information on the towing contract here in Lincoln. The City of Lincoln has set out invitations to bid the towing contract again. Bid number 21042 is the rebid number. The bid is very similar to the previous bid of 20-66. The purpose of coming here tonight is to inform you that all of the items that have been changed in this new bid were already agreed upon with Midwest Towing in the previous bid, in the original bid. This is another example of how the City of Lincoln, in their own statement from a letter sent to Midwest on February 11th, 2021, reserves the right to unilaterally reject all bids at any time. This is again a ruse to award a contract to a specific vendor. These types of behavior by the purchasing department are detrimental to our industry and serve to devalue our presence in the community. Additionally, the bid shows to once again be a moving target due to the specifications as directed towards the new specific vendor, even in the specifications. It does not reflect a fair bid process in either the required equipment, the enormous drain placed on the contractor for free services giving to the city, nor the need to rebid. This is enough. When is enough going to be enough? The City of Lincoln requires large rent payments for the impound, free services to all city-owned vehicles, free labor to collect fees for the city, and vendor employees to collect property which the city auctions and takes the proceeds. With all of these requirements in the city then has a right to store anything they wish at the impound lot free of charge. These are just free items which are required. Please tell me, what other contract does the city have which it demands free services from the vendor? When when did this become acceptable behavior? I can tell you when. The current contractor started this in 2003 with the purchasing department in order to secure the future of this very contract. Every time the contract came up for bid, Capital Towing gave away something. They gave away free tows to the bid. They gave free tows to the city. They gave away rent to the city to make it to where they secured that contract. And now there's nothing else to give. There's nothing else that's worth them hanging on to. If you look at the towing contracts from Omaha, Douglas County, Des Moines, and even Lancaster County, all of them require a contract to have a large truck towing equipment. The City of Lincoln contract allows this to be subcontracted. The City of Lincoln will allow a vendor to subcontract large tow trucks, but not subcontract small towing on their bid. All of these cities ask for flatbed tow trucks, which the City of Lincoln requires tow trucks and won't even accept flatbed tow trucks as for the vendor's equipment count. The city in Lincoln requires you to have all of these trucks even before bidding. This means you have large amounts of equipment but have not committed to any other business. These are just a few examples of outlandish rules or exceptions that are required to begin to bid this contract. These stipulations are exactly why towing companies in this area know that the bid is absolutely designed for a specific bidder. Over the years, these questions have been posed time and time again, with always the lack of change or even a meeting to discuss these specifications with the companies who perform these jobs every single day. The double standard and bias is so blatant that almost anyone can stand up here and compete for this. No one can stand up here and compete for this contract. Why is the City of Lincoln allowing this kind of behavior from its purchasing agent? Anyone wishing to bid on this contract is no longer allowed to speak with anyone directly until the bid is closed again. So purchasing has silenced the people who know this is keeping you in the dark as best they can. Why is that acceptable? Why can't he speak? Because Bob Walla doesn't want you guys to know what is actually going on. And all of the changes in the bid are exactly what Midwest has agreed to. I believe that the city should do the right thing, and that is to honor the award bid that was given to Midwest Towing, because it was a fair bid. He was able to underbid Sarah because he has heavy trucks, and that's where the bid came in under what Sarah at Capital Towing bid. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Councilman Shob?
I didn't catch the name. I don't think you introduced yourself.
My name?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm Dan Habel.
Thank you, Dan.
Any further questions? Councilman Washington?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I remember what you said from last time. One company won the contract, then the contract was rescinded,
Yes.
and then it went back out for bid?
Now it went back out for bid. Jeff at Midwest was told that he could not protest, even though it says in the bidding process that you can protest. So by putting it up for bid, or back up for bid, is what that allows Capital to do now, is to know where everybody's at. So now they're just going to lower their bid, which doesn't help our industry. I mean, in the towing industry, our trucks cost us $100,000 a piece. And if we're doing $50 tows, allowing Wallace's response to that was, you better know which emails to subpoena. I'm sorry, that is unacceptable behavior from somebody in that position, that either you're friends with him or you're not.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you so much for coming down and bringing this up.
Okay, and I'm hoping that by me speaking for him, on behalf of him, that doesn't affect anything, because it shouldn't.
Right.
That rule should not have been even in place.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan.
Hello, my name is Dan Burdorf from Lincoln, Nebraska. And I'm here to talk to you about something that I think is hurting a lot of council members' chances for reelection. And some of you may recognize me. I've supported many of you in the past, and I've even made phone calls for some of you on members of the city council during campaigns. And that's why I want to point out that the suspension of the rules for the almost 345 days with the emergency declaration has been detrimental to you.
Point of order. Point of order, sir. That's on our agenda at this time, and we've repeatedly said you can't address that in your public comments.
But I'm trying to help you.
Well, I think we've explained the rules, sir, very clearly.
But I think that you're using a parliamentary trick to just silence public opinion.
No, sir, that's not true. This is not the opportunity at public comment. Our city attorney has already ruled that.
But
You're free to talk about the process if you want, about how you feel like the process is inappropriate. I think that would be fair to talk about.
the process of,
Because you said that you felt like it was a parliamentary blocking.
yeah, I think it's pretty clear that it is, because it was introduced and then immediately put on pending to avoid public comment into silence. I would like my First Amendment rights protected. So I feel like I should be able to speak on this topic. And I'm sorry that Councilman McGinnis isn't here for the important votes that you had tonight, like the conversion therapy and the motion that, Councilman Christensen made. And I think it's really important to talk about the mistake that this council's making with letting this emergency declaration go on.
Correct. And I'm sorry, but we can't talk, the emergency declaration, as we've addressed before, we can't talk about it at this
You're
meeting.
losing public support.
And I'm just following the rules that have been laid out.
But I think that, do you believe that emergency decisions are still being made day by day and day to day after 345 days?
Point of order.
Yeah, is there any other items other than the emergency declaration that you would like to speak on?
No, I want to talk about that.
Okay, well then thank you for coming out and speak, but as the rules laid out and as we've explained before, we cannot talk about the emergency declaration. You're more than free to talk about the process, the importance of opening up the council chambers. Any of that is completely appropriate, but these are the rules that the council has had in place.
Okay, but I noted that I wanted to talk about that emergency declaration, but if I'm forced to talk about something else, then I think that the parliamentary gamesmanship is quite absurd, and it really hurts the voice of the public. Because if it's completely silenced, then there can be no public debate, and public debate is what we have to do, because it's been 345 days of
Point of order, please, sir.
Okay. I think this is a big mistake by you, because a lot of people are turned off by this gamesmanship, and it's quite absurd, and I think it's going to hurt. I mean, with the election coming up, there's a primary election coming up quite soon, and then there's obviously the general, and I think a lot of you up for re-election on it. So I would really encourage you to stop this gamesmanship and let the public speak. Because it's obvious how absurd it is. It really is absurd. I've watched it on the internet, and it looks like a complete catastrophe. And I've seen a lot of city council meetings, and I think that this council has actually improved a lot from past councils where they used to giggle when people testified. And and joke with each other, but this council at least pays attention to the speakers, so I appreciate that. But I think you're really doing yourselves a great disservice by silencing the public and not letting them speak and not letting them exercise their First Amendment rights to speak. And it is obvious that, with all due respect, it's obvious that it's a game or a trick to silence public opinion. And it's really difficult to accept. I mean, I don't think Lincoln should have to accept it. It's ridiculous. And I would be ashamed if I was doing it. So if I can't speak on the topic that I wanted to speak on, I guess I have to leave. Is that the rule?
Yes.
Yes, this is the door that we have folks
The door?
exit out of, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for pointing the door to me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Next person, please.
Samuel Lyon, Lincoln, Nebraska. I rise before you this evening to speak about the unending emergency declaration.
Point of order. Point of order. Mr. Chair, I'd like to take a recess.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of a testimony.
Point of order.
Do we need to take a recess?
All right, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
I'm in the middle of a testimony, and I
Mr. Lyons, we have explained to you at our last meeting, we had our city attorney come up and share with you that based on the rules of the city council, your comments are out of order, but we do have a motion to adjourn on the floor.
I do.
Nothing else can happen until that's voted on.
Yep.
I have new evidence that the council has not heard yet.
Point of order,
That-
Mr. Lyon. Point of order. We had this discussion last time you were here.
Well, I'm not here to talk about Councilman Christensen's resolution.
You
That's on
just-
the pending list. I'm here to talk about Resolution 20R-122. With your permission,
I don't know what that is.
could I talk about that resolution?
I don't, is it on the agenda?
It is not on the agenda.
Point of order, there is a motion and it was seconded to adjourn. It's a priority motion, no discussion or debate is allowed.
Okay.
It must be voted on before anything else can happen.
Okay. So, Councilman Raybold, are you still wanting to introduce a motion to adjourn?
Yes, if we're going to continue down the same vein where we have explained very clearly to all the people that would like to come and testify that this is not permissible by the city council rules. And so, yes, I would like to still continue to make the motion to adjourn. Mr. Lyons, it is not subject to your interpretation.
I'm here to talk about Christensen's resolution. That's all I was going to say.
So there was a motion, was there a second?
Councilwoman Ward.
Tammy, Councilman Ward seconded it.
Okay, is there any discussion?
No discussion is allowed on priority motions.
Does the city attorney tell us that, or you tell us that,
No,
Councilman Christensen?
there's no discussion on a motion
Rules.
to adjourn.
There's a lot of people in the hallway that have come here to talk to you.
If I,
Call the roll should be the next thing.
Please.
Can you please do a roll call vote?
Washington?
I'm so sorry. Pardon me? Did you say Washington?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
Ward?
No.
Christensen?
No.
Raybold?
yes.
Chobe?
No.
Bowers?
No.
Motion lost, 1-5.
Should I continue?
Yes.
So, as I said, I'm not here to talk about Councilman Christensen's resolution 21R9. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I anticipated some parliamentary tricks to block the testimony, and so we will not be talking about Christensen's resolution, more commonly known as the resolution of which we do not speak. I will instead speak on Resolution 20R-122, with your permission.
I'm not sure what that is. I don't
We
have
don't
a,
have the resolutions.
I'd be happy to refresh your memory. If you're not familiar with it, we'll see what we can do about that to change that, because it should be one of the first things that you think about when you go to sleep, when you wake up in the morning, and one of the last things you think about when you go to sleep. Because it affects your constituents in an ongoing and more profound way than many other resolutions that have come before you. 20R-122 is the resolution that was referenced for the need to close businesses at 9 p.m. Earlier this year, or in 2020. 20R-122 was the resolution referenced when the decision was made to ban family members from watching their kids' sports activities in Lincoln, and banning some children from competing in Lincoln indoor sports at all, depending on which family members they were of. Was it really too obscure for you to remember? Now, in the past, when referring to the topic of which we do not speak, it has been inferred that we need to keep 20R-122, the mayor's unending emergency declaration, ongoing in order to be eligible for state and federal funds. But so far, this has been an unsubstantiated claim, with no documentation put forth to the public to back it up. And most of the...
Point of order, Mr. Lyon, you know, you're accusing us of parliamentary tricks. What are you doing standing up there, spouting off resolutions, and then continuing on the same vein of disrupting and restricting other people from giving public comment? What about what our city attorney, who directed and told you was permissible in the chamber, that you did not understand?
If you're implying that I'm doing something illegal or against the rules, I'd be happy to have that conversation with the city attorney.
It's, Mr. Chair.
It's already been established and settled.
This is not the resolution I spoke on last week when we had the discussion.
Councilwoman Ward.
It is a point of order, because this item that you're addressing, Mr. Lyon, has been on a previous agenda. So you cannot talk about it. We've been advised. It's been on a previous agenda.
That's not what the rule states.
Yeah, it does.
On a previous agenda?
Yep.
No, we're not allowed to talk about any subject that's been on a previous agenda?
Then
That is
read-
correct.
I
Read
think-
the agenda every.
Because it's already had its public hearing.
Every week it says that at the top of the agenda. And this item has been on a previous agenda. So if you have other items you want to discuss, now is the time.
So what you're saying is, no item on any agenda that's ever been talked about by any city council in the past can ever be talked about again by the public at any point in the future. Is that your assessment?
You can interpret it however you want. This item has been on a previous agenda. So if you have other items, we're happy to hear them.
Could you direct my attention to the agenda where it says that? Which page is that on?
It's not on our current agenda. It's been on a previous agenda, not tonight's agenda. We've been advised accordingly.
I think he's asking about the rule.
The rule.
Yeah, the rule. Could someone explain to me where I could find the rule that says any item on any previous agenda can never be talked about again?
It's in the council rules.
Well, let's bring up our city attorney and have him clarify.
Is he still here?
He's always here when you're here.
That's what he said. Here we go.
Nancy Christie, City Attorney. I think some people were talking to me as well. I think I know what the question is, but if you could just... I think the question is, it's a previous agenda? Is that where we're at?
Correct.
Well, I think the rule that talks about public comment Rule 3.21. And I think that when you were referencing the agenda, I think the agenda item, when it talks about public comment, says anyone wishing to address the council on a matter not on this agenda and not plan to appear on a future agenda may do so at the open microphone session.
The thing you read before the council meeting.
It was alleged that any item on any previous agenda is off limits to talk about at any time in the future by the public.
Councilman Christie, what's your opinion?
I think you call me councilman, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry, City Attorney Christie.
You never know.
I think that my understanding of how it is operated is that if it's on the agenda or scheduled to be on a future agenda, that we were not, and I believe that is what has, on the public comment section on the agenda, I think that's what it's routinely said.
Okay, so it does not apply to past agendas. So we'll go ahead and move forward with your testimony.
Am I allowed to speak on?
If the item on the past agenda is not continuing to be on our present agenda or a future agenda.
I think that's correct, yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilman
It just
Washington.
might be helpful, Mr. Lyons, if you wouldn't mind reading the title of 20 or 122. And you may think that we memorized all bill numbers, but
No,
we do
certainly
not
not.
memorize
No, certainly
the
not.
1,000.
No,
that
certainly
come.
not. No, certainly not. Just one that has been at the forefront of Lincoln for 245 days, the emergency that's impacting every citizen in Lincoln. I would think that resolution would be on the forefront of each of your minds.
Well, the resolution is, the number is not. Would you please say what the title of the resolution is?
Yeah, I don't have internet access here at my computer to have that title. I can tell you that it happened on March 16th, that you suspended rules on that day and the mayor came forward, and one of the first things that was asked was,
Point of order. I think we know exactly what you're talking about now. I'm guessing because you keep playing these games with us, and I resent your taking our time and time away from other people that would like to testify. So if you have none you attention, unwarranted attention, and not be willing to follow our rules. Or I guess the rules do not apply to you, is that what you're telling us?
I apologize for not having the title of that resolution.
You keep it.
Declaration beyond 72
Point of
hours.
order.
Councilwoman Ward.
That was our action.
Point of order. Mr. Lyon, Councilwoman Raybold is correct. You keep coming back to the emergency declaration to test.
On this.
This is Resolution A92047 to answer Councilwoman Washington's question. It deals directly with the emergency declaration.
No, that's a resolution that could end it, and it may be that you use that resolution to end it, or it may be that it's withdrawn next week and you use a different resolution. In the end, I'm not here to talk about. I following the rules to your point.
And we told you that is on the agenda.
Yeah,
So you may not address items in our city.
Paused it due to discussion, so he has about 2 minutes left.
Am I allowed to?
I would like our city attorney to come back up. Is on our future agenda. Is that?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
The emergency declaration, which resolution is that?
Well, I see what the resolution that you're referencing, I think, is the emergency declaration that was issued by the mayor.
Right.
And then that is still in effect right now, and it is on pending.
Well, it's not.
Okay, I appreciate your advocacy.
When you say the emergency declaration, you're saying the resolution to end the emergency declaration?
It is either related to it or it's germane to it, but it's the ruling of the chair. The ruling of the chair is that it is related to that. Please speak on something else to follow the rules.
So you're saying that talking about,
This isn't going to
Point
be a
of
back and
order.
forth, and I'm sorry.
am I allowed to say the word emergency?
Please speak on something other than the emergency declaration.
Oh, I would love to.
Okay.
And I had planned to, and I thought that this was within the rules. It seems as if
Your time has started. I'm not going to engage in a back and forth like this. So I believe that you are a smart, intelligent person, Mr. Lyons, passion, and I think that you're a very creative, articulate individual.
Thank you.
And because of that, I know that I don't want to play a game.
Sure, and as
And
as I don't as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop responding to that at this time, and we're gonna start your time back up. If we do start to go into that potentially gray area, it does become a chair rule. Thank you, Mr. Lyons, and we'll go ahead and start your time.
Is my time stopped?
And 49 seconds left for your 4-minute mark. After that, when it beeps, you'll have 1 more minute.
Okay, thank you.
May I start the clock?
Yes.
Thank you very much for that, for those generous comments about me. Thank you. It should be kept official when I appeared before. You do wish to use parliamentary procedure in order to block public comment. Therefore, we found a way to use procedure within the law, within the rules of your rules, that would allow us to have public comment. And it seems as if there are some on your council who are offended by that and have moved to just adjourn, silencing everyone's voices, recess so we can figure out what to do next, and ignore the counsel of the city attorney to make your own designation on what is within the rules and what is not within the rules. Those are the parliamentary games, the parliamentary tricks that the speaker previous to me pointed out that you all are denying is happening, but it's so obvious that it is happening. I came here to talk about 20R 122, if I'm allowed to say the resolution number, and to tell you that you've repeatedly gone out of your way to keep this from the public eye. You suspended rules in the beginning. You've put things on pending without hearing, and now you shut down person after person when it's been advised to you that we're well within the rules. Interrupted me multiple occasions to keep it from the public eye. And I suggest you stop doing that. It's time for this to come before the public, them to have a hearing on it, and talk about it. As it was mentioned, elections are coming up, and my question to you is, how will you go out and look your constituents in the eye and ask them to vote you in for 4 more years on the council if you're not willing to do your job today? And yes, it's difficult to have people come in and tell you that they don't like their kids not going to volleyball, or they don't like their stores being shut down. And listen to that and make legislation, good legislation. But that's the job that you have. That's the job that you have. And yes, it'd be much easier to just give it to someone else, relinquish it, and not ask for it back. But then how could you go out and ask for your job back for 4 more years? For generations, 72 hours has been the threshold for an emergency declaration.
I'm sorry, that is within.
My mistake.
Thank you.
Of which the topic of which we do not speak. I ask you, take your job back. Ask the mayor to come before you and explain why she needs to continue to hold Lincoln on a stranglehold. Ask for your job back, or you'll have difficulty convincing your constituents that you want it in the future.
Thank you.
Hello. Since we have Voldemort tonight, I'm going to put together a few more thoughts, and they're going to be off the cuff. Lucky for all of you, because I'm not a very good off the cuff speaker. So I get 5 minutes, and I'm going to talk about whatever I want. First of all, Mr. Christensen, I'm going to tell you I'm super duper proud of you.
Sorry, miss,
Yes.
would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Christina Campbell. I've lived in Lincoln for 11 years.
Thank you, Ms.
I'm
Campbell.
from Denver, Colorado.
Thank you. I just didn't know
Okay.
you.
Roy, I'm super proud of you. super proud of you, and I'm going to hold your arms up as much as I can. And I don't know why I cry every time I come up here. It makes me sad. But what makes me even sadder is seeing every single one of you disrespecting your constituents like this, except for you. Okay, just so you know, this is not aimed at you. I don't want to have to stand here and do this. And I know I'm just a peon, right? I'm not an elected official, and I don't have any kind of, reputation, anything like that to defend right now. But you do, and you're not doing a very good job of it. Every single one of you besides Christensen has let us down. Every single one of you. By not letting us talk? What is that? You are silencing free speech. What if you wanted to come talk about something and nobody let you? I don't think you'd be very happy because you seem to really like to talk. So maybe you should let people talk as well, because that's literally what you're hired for, is to listen to your constituents and support them. Thank God you are not my district city council person, because I would be working my butt off to get you out of office. Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm mad. I'm not usually a very disrespectful person, but I'm really disappointed to have to be up here speaking about this in the first place. We should not have to be standing up to you guys. We should be standing with you guys. You should all be standing with us. That is literally why we elected you. That goes for a lot more topics than the one that I wanted to talk to you about tonight, which, by the way, was Resolution 20R-122. Not even gonna say it. There's no point, because you won't listen anyway, right? Okay, so how close does any of this have to come to you to affect you personally enough that you will finally listen to us and take your power back? You are ruining people's lives by doing what you're doing. Okay, does it need to affect your child, your husband, your wife, your significant other, mom, dad, you? How long, what's it gonna take for you to finally listen to us and stop letting one person dictate your life? How are we supposed to trust you when you run for higher offices like state legislature, when you don't even have the backbone to stand up for us in this one? Take back your power that you are entitled to as a council person and abide by the city charter that has fallen by the wayside. Every single one of you, in my opinion, are lawbreakers with zero respect for the law because you're not abiding by it. Can we go ahead and lift that emergency now? Yeah, I said it, emergency. Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you for coming out.
Good evening. I'm Lori Marsh, Lincoln, Nebraska. I guess I'm a little confused about, I came here to talk about the emergency declaration power, so I'm kind of confused whether I can actually talk about it or not, because some people have been told they can't, but have been. I'm here to talk about 20R22, and if I can't talk about emergency declarations, I'd like to talk about suspending rules. So back in 2020, the 72-hour, rule applied, and it's now February 22nd, 2021. So I believe that is a suspension of rules by not having, I think your board is supposed to be contacted every 72 hours or something for it to be extended. Haven't heard anything about that happening, so I don't know if you all have an off-record agreement or on-record agreement with the mayor that she just doesn't have to come before you and talk about anything. I don't know. But that's kind of seems like an overreach of power. So regarding suspending rules, I believe that's a good point. I believe the framers of the charter put a time cap on the emergency powers because of the immense...
I'm sorry, that's germane to the emergency declaration.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, talking about extending the emergency declaration or talking about the time limit of the emergency declaration is related to something that's already on a future agenda. But you are, please feel free to talk about the parliamentary stuff or the process of the folks coming to testify about council.
I got it. Okay, thank you. All right, well, I'll go on to this then. It's apparent that the mayor has a history of not abiding by the rules and regulations, as we saw when the mayor asked you all to suspend rules in order to push Health Director Pat Lopez through. No one has ever quantified what the reason was to suspend the rules at that time, and not conduct business as usual and allowing it to be put before the constituents for public comment. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm hoping that you will take back your power from the mayor and do your jobs as you were elected to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Janet Rice, Janetrice. I live in Lincoln. I have a few things I want to ask you. When you plan on opening the City Council, when do you plan on opening the City Council chambers back up? Can anyone answer that question?
I have a point of order, please.
Councilman Christensen.
This is a forum where we listen. It is not a back and forth for
Okay,
questions and
okay.
answers.
So 2 weeks ago I came, and I do thank you that, you know, that there's TVs out there and there's extra chairs and there's space 6 feet apart. That is great. It is really hard because in the hallways they do echo, so it's really hard to hear, even with the extra TVs. Just wanted to let you know that it's difficult to hear even outside in the hallway. But I do thank you for taking those efforts. It's appreciated. So I would like to see the City Council open the chambers back up where we can at least be seated 6 feet apart. Being out in the hallway, not being part of the conversation. We, the people, have been excluded from the conversations thus far. And I'm going to just share the difficulties that this year has brought with the shutting down of businesses, and you have to make sure that you get to the store before 9 o'clock, and sometimes that's not always possible. And to have to wait when you go to the physician's office and you have little ones or kids that are not able to be at home, we can't take our kids with us to the doctor's office because it makes it difficult. We have to find somebody to watch our kids so we can take our kids to that just does not make common sense. You're having to find somebody to watch your kids. Not that I'm opposed to having somebody watch my kids, but it's just concerning. And when you go to the bank, you sit in long lines. You're not allowed to go inside the bank. And we have wasted so much gas just sitting in line, 1/8 of a tank every time we go. And we don't get compensated for sitting outside, doctor's offices, banks, wherever we, if we have to wait in line to go to the grocery store because, it was difficult to sit there and wait in line when it's hot. And, I'm thankful that things are a little bit opened up now, but, it's just been difficult. And I had come to speak about the things that we're not allowed to speak about, and I've seen so many others not be able to speak about that. So I guess I'm not going to speak about that because we don't want to go back to something that's happened 345 days ago. We just want to keep allowing the powers of the mayor or the Pat Lopez, the health director of Lincoln Lancaster County, to continue doing the things that to not open up so that we can return to a somewhat normal life. My son has autism. He is so afraid to go outside. We have to, it took him until August to finally, okay, I can go outside. He's still really not comfortable about being outside because he's afraid that there's been so much fear-mongering that has gone on with the media. I just want to see some change.
You have another minute.
And I thank you for listening. I pray that you do change your direction. We have appointed you as elected officials, and we're to work together. There's supposed to be checks and balances, and we're not seeing that. Thank you. You have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Rice.
Good evening. My name is Sean Truckee, and I'm here today to publicly ask some difficult questions regarding the pandemic. Questions that I believe have not been answered by our health department, even after repeated written attempts by myself and others. We have been dealing with the pandemic for almost a year now, and initially we were told that the primary goal of all the directed health measures was to keep hospital space available. It was not to prevent everyone from getting sick, but rather to slow the spread over time. The state of Nebraska correctly used hospitalizations as the metric with which to base public policy decisions on. Contrast that with our local officials who have used a convoluted patchwork of metrics, but did not tie public policy decisions directly to those metrics. Instead, the local mandates and restrictions have been implemented in a very arbitrary and capricious manner. What hard evidence do we have that any of this obtrusive tinkering in our lives and businesses has done anything other than damage our citizens, businesses, and our institutions? From a testing perspective, why on January 20th of this year did the World Health Organization finally change their guidance regarding testing, stating that even in the presence of a positive test, if the patient is not exhibiting symptoms, they are likely not sick. This means our COVID case counts have been grossly over-exaggerated. How much did this situation elevate our case count locally? How did these elevated case counts impact public policy decisions? What cycle threshold numbers do tests use locally? Have those numbers changed recently? And if so, is that part of the reason that our case numbers are now plummeting in Lincoln? And what implications does this have on the notion of asymptomatic spread, which was the main driver behind so many of our public policy restrictions? And also on testing, why are local positivity rates so much higher than the state numbers? Which method are we using to count positivity rates? Tests over tests or people over people? Why the focus on positivity rates at all when hospitalizations are the only metric that I think really matters? And on the topic of masks, is Lincoln going to be a perpetual mask city now? This is a legitimate question in light of the utterly ridiculous statements being made at the national level that we will have to wear masks, maybe more than one, well into 2022. Why has the CDC guidance on masks been all over the map over the last year? Why are there numerous examples of counties, states, countries that implemented universal masking, only to see their case count spike shortly thereafter, Lincoln included? Why are there inconsistencies and exceptions of when masks must be worn almost too numerous to count? I could literally speak for 30 minutes alone on this topic. It's hard to think that this is anything but theater at this point. Why is it that even after vaccination, everyone must still wear a mask, socially distance, and in some cases for healthcare workers, still get weekly COVID tests at the direction of the health department? Why in the past during flu season were healthcare workers allowed to not wear a mask once they had the flu vaccine, which is only 40 to 60% effective? Why with the COVID vaccine that is supposed to be 95% effective, does everyone still have to wear a mask and socially distance once vaccinated? Speaking of the flu, why is the flu essentially gone now? Did COVID just take the place of the seasonal flu? Why are health providers still pushing the flu vaccine? Who is going to answer for the dramatic increase in mental health, addiction, and destructive behaviors? And is there a plan to deal with the fallout? What has been the increase in suicide rates over the last year? I know of 3 myself in the last month. What is the long-term effects of teaching kids as well as adults that everyone is a potential threat to them and to keep isolated from others all the time? Over the last year, my immediate and extended family have frankly ignored the experts and tried to live our lives as normally as possible, with no masks and no social distancing whatsoever, except we're mandated by the health mandates. While it was certainly possible we could have contracted COVID, not a single person did from all of those interactions. Life has risks, and people need to be free to make their own risk assessments and not be subject to arbitrary mandates. Sadly, every day, far more people die of cancer, heart disease, and other illnesses in our community than die of COVID, yet we do not turn our society upside down for those deaths. And lastly, the goalposts for returning to normal cannot keep moving. We do not have anything even remotely resembling an emergency any longer, and may in fact be very close to herd immunity, as is now being widely reported. Why does the health department continue to want to micromanage every aspect of our lives? We must have clear, specific guidance on when this all ends, and it must be very soon. The fear campaign must stop, and people must be allowed to live their lives again. Thank you for your time. And I'd be happy to take any questions, and I also would be happy to provide these questions to any city council member that would like to actually ask and follow up with the health department on these, because I cannot get an answer to anything that I ask them. And these are legitimate, real questions that impact how public policy is dictated in this city. Thank you.
Hang on one
Sir,
second, Councilman Christensen.
could you give a copy of those questions to the clerk?
I certainly can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming down.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean.
Need to go to a microphone.
Sorry about that. My name is Mark Gill, I live in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I came here to address something we're not allowed to address by name, so I'll just call it what it is, 20R-122. Back over the summer months when Director Lopez, without being properly approved through channels, was acting health director, she started slapping the mandates down on us. And they said it was going to be for education purposes only. Those are the mayor's words. Education purposes. We're going to educate and inform. But they started doing raids on businesses. I call them raids because that's what they were. They went in, did no notice inspections, and they started shutting businesses down. We've seen it. You all have seen it because they've been here, addressed the issues with you here in this council before. When it was brought to the attention of the city council, which I'm sure that they already knew, that what the mayor had done with Director Lopez was not legal, then after the fact, this council suspends rules, their own rules, and went ahead after the fact and approved her, kind of like the hand washing after it was, too late. She's already there. My wife she's an immigrant from the country of Vietnam. She watches what's going on here in this council, this nation. She is appalled that she's seeing the things unfold in front of her here, even in our own city, that she left Vietnam to escape. She had two brothers that died in the South China Sea trying to escape that kind of tyranny and overreach by the government. And she's seeing that happen here, and she's just appalled. She's afraid. She lived with that, and she's afraid of what she's seeing take place right here in our own city. The mayor has taken power upon herself that she should not be doing. And we look upon each of you to be a balance to that. Keep the power in balance and not let her take your power and your authority of your positions to which you're all elected. If we can't count on this council to represent the people equally across the board, why should we re-elect any of you? I've watched here recently, case in point, the numbers, they don't make sense. They just don't. We had a homewarming because we just bought a house last October in your district, Councilwoman Ward. Okay, we bought a home. We had a home warming in there. We were going to have the priest in there to bless the home and some family members. We had people who got wind of it. They came uninvited. One of them and his family ended up in the hospital with COVID just a few days later. My wife's autoimmune, so she's immune compromised. We didn't so much as get a sniffle from that exposure. And it was like all afternoon that these people were in our home. We didn't know they were sick at the time. 2 days later, they found out they were sick. By then, we'd already been exposed to whatever it was they had, but we didn't get sick. My wife has lupus, heart disease, a number of health issues. She should have been the first one to become ill in that house. She didn't. So I think the hype is what the real hoax is here. And there's been so much fear instilled into people. I've got children that were in the neighborhood, my previous neighborhood on the south side, that would see us and come up and talk to me and when I was out walking our dog. After all the fear mongering that took place, they would give me wide berth. These are children that I knew. They'd been in my yard, played with my dog, but because they had so much fear, they wouldn't come around again. That's irresponsible. We've got children out of schools now, they're socially cut off. Suicide rates are just skyrocketing among the young people that are away from schools. And I know you've seen it. And I hope you've been concerned about it. But it just appalls me that we come in here and then when we start pushing it on something that has been improperly done, rules have been suspended, the first go-to is to ask for a recess or adjourn the meeting. That's not the way to deal with your constituents. Face us openly, open dialogue. We sit in the hallway out there, we can barely hear what's being said in here. It is so muffled and garbled. How can I come in here as a citizen and make it an informed have an informed discussion with you when I don't even know what you've been saying? But yet we're confined to a hallway out there. You can social distance in these seats right in here. There's space enough for that. And I don't think it would put any one of you in jeopardy, no more than my family and I were when we sat down and broke bread with people at our homecoming, our home housewarming. Let's be open and transparent. Let's not just simply adjourn or recess. Kind of reminds me of what President Biden's press secretary, she's gotten the name of the circle back girl because she's always going to circle back to something. And that's what happens when people come to speak and they get put off with adjournments and recesses while you dig into the books to see how to find a loophole or how to circumvent public discussion on something that needs to see the daylight, the sunlight.
Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming out.
Hello, my name is Mary Hamilton, and I'm here tonight to speak to you because I was listening. I watch you guys a lot on TV. I don't always come down here. Some days I come down here and I get too tired and I go home because usually by the time it's time for me to speak, it's getting pretty late. It's almost 9 o'clock now. But basically, I want to tell you that I had emailed everybody because Jane had told us that we could email. So I thought, okay, I'm going to email you and maybe I can get a response. But no one responded to me except Sandra. Thank you, Sandra. And you aren't even my representative. But that's okay. But I really appreciated that you did answer me because you were the only one that answered me back. And basically what my email was about I would like to address the issue of sitting in the council chambers because I felt like other city councils in the state of Nebraska, I've been watching, like Omaha and Papillion, and they let people in their chambers. And I don't understand why we don't allow our citizens to sit in the chambers and get up and speak, because it seems to me that we are trying to silence the voices of the people and the citizens of Lincoln. It really does seem like that. I don't know if you see it the way I do, but tonight was appalling to me. I've never seen anything like it. And not allowing us to sit in the chamber, you're limiting our representation during the council process, because like the gentleman before me said, you know, we can't hear out there. I have very hard of hearing. I have a hard time hearing. The voices are muffled with the masks. So if you spoke, it would be nice if you could take off your mask while you're speaking. I appreciate Ward, Tammy, that was nice of you to do that, because I really could hear you a lot better. And you got the, you know, pretty much got the protection of the glass and everything. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to say that I appreciate when I get listened to, and it seems like that we're not really getting listened to. And I have talked to Roy before, and he listens to me. I appreciate that, Roy, because I've talked to you before. But I just wanted to state that, because basically I was going to talk about everything the other people addressed, because it's been a terrible year for all of us, and it's been a terrible year for me, just because I did get COVID, and it wasn't that bad. I don't know what the big hype is. I know that not everybody gets it the same way, but my husband and I both got it, and he wore a mask every day to work. So also, I don't appreciate not being able to go see my kids' sporting events, my grandkids, and getting to see them as much as, you know, I'd like to watch them. But other than that, and I'm not blaming you for that, it's just, I just thought I'd bring that up, because the other people brought up, you know, all the things that have been going on. But anyway, thank you for your time, and that's all I had to say.
Thank you for taking the time to come out, Mrs. Hamilton. Ms. Kinsey?
I don't have an email from Ms. Hamilton. I don't have an email from her. I searched my email and I never got one.
Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs. So, according to the newspaper, the vaccination procedure is going wonderfully. And while I can't say that down at the arena it is not going well, but to get an appointment to go is another matter. And I'll tell you what has happened to me and to my friend. The week of the 25th, people were supposed to be vaccinated for the first time. About an hour before I had an appointment that came on my email, I was notified. And there were 10 pages of written forms. I couldn't even wait to get all of them. So I went down to the arena, and it went smoothly once I got down there. They had papers that were filled out. I didn't need to have to wait for 20 forms to do that. And the woman told me, the nurse said, you will be notified in 3 weeks, February the 25th. So I went down there for a friend to find out his day. They wouldn't even answer the phone. You had to go down there to get information. And one man before me said he had called 60 times and he could not get through. Well, that is not sensible to think that you can send out information to people and for them to be able to get through on a line when they're not answering the phone. So anyway, we got appointments. What they said was our phones crashed. Well, that means they were overwhelmed. Why do you set up information for people to call in when your phones are not available to take it? Now, my friend is scheduled to get his shot second shot, a week early, and I don't have an appointment, which is supposed to be Friday. So they are answering the phone now, and the fellow said, "Oh, well, some people just didn't get notified, and we don't know what we're going to do about that." So I said, what is the length that you're supposed to have between? Well, the CDC has a minimum, but they don't have a maximum. So I could go maybe a year or two, or wherever they feel like setting another appointment for me. This is not the way to run a situation. As I said, I don't have any information to fault the arena situation, but setting it up is a mess. And to tell somebody, well, we don't know when we'll get back to you, is not the way for a public agency to handle it. So that is the story about that. The other thing I would like to speak about are the rolling blackouts. We have been told for years that the grid is not sufficient in California. And they have found that they have had this over and over. This is the first time we've ever had it in Lincoln since I've lived here, since 1969. It is abominable that people are deprived of their electricity. And the mayor has these big plans, like the government of the federal government has, to do Green Deal. We're not ready for a Green Deal. We need to have our electricity now, and the grid needs to be replaced. You have something to say to the mayor, I hope, about this, and that you will let her know that there are people in Lincoln who are not happy about the way the electricity's been handled. And the bills are going up, the water bill is going up, and you're going to price people out of the market in Lincoln.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kinsey.
Tell me when I start. Anytime?
I start after you say your name and address. So.
Okay. Robert Borer, B-O-R-E-R, 6541 South 59th Place, Lincoln, 68516. I was going to talk about boogeyman religion tonight, but I don't think most of you are interested in really being reasoned with or any facts or information. I think you're doing yourself a great disservice. You're making yourselves irrelevant. We really don't need a council. We've got a mayor who can handle everything and a health director. So maybe we ought to, Roy, you're the exception you're one exception. There might be another one or two on the council, but so with that, I'm just going to talk to the community. I may look at you, but I'm talking to the camera. I'm just not going to look at it because I do not like looking at cameras. I want to tell the community that there's nothing to fear. Absolutely nothing but fear itself. Fear is driving all of the wreckage and carnage and illness and death above what would have normally been illness and death. People with existing morbidities were fear-mongered, isolated, neglected. All of this fear and hysteria just moved their demise and their departure from this life up. That's all it did. But if you take care of yourself, there's nothing to fear. I'm 62 years old. I knew from day one that there was nothing to fear. Consequently, I never listened to these phony precautions. Now, I did put on a little John Wayne bandana mask twice, just long enough to load a plane to Orlando and then back. That was the only time. I guess there was one other. We went up, so 62, since June, I've been to Florida and back, Wisconsin and back, Colorado and back, and most recently, Branson and back, where we went to, I'm going to do an advertisement here for Crazy Craig. Crazy Craig's Cheeky Monkey Bar just outside of Branson. Live music, wall-to-wall people, nobody wearing masks. It was the best time. How is it that one jurisdiction can operate like normal human beings and another is scared out of their minds? It makes no sense. But we had the best time there. But the other time that I wore a mask is when we went to Wisconsin to the Dells. I think it was in end of June or beginning of July, and my friends had bought me tickets to the water park, and they required us to put a stupid mask on to walk through the gate. Didn't make any sense, but I went along because they had did me a favor. Other than that, me and my friends and my wife, we simply live life normally. We go shopping just like normal. We smile. We love smiling at people, and we talk to people when they smile back. The worst thing that this whole crazy thing has done, the biggest thing that's stolen from us, is our smile, our ability to smile at each other. I can see you're smiling, but most of the time it's hard to tell somebody's smiling with a mask off. That's very unfortunate. And I was listening to a very well-educated gentleman on a interview just a couple of days ago where he talked about the great disservice that we're doing to very young kids who learn a lot about communication by watching their parents' faces and other people's faces. There's nothing to fear. I haven't had a sniffle. I have not had a sniffle since this thing started. I know how to take care of myself. I don't need anybody to tell me how. I'm not infected. I'm not sick. I'm not going to make you infected. I'm not going to make you sick. These things here, they don't do anything. If you think they do, you don't know anything about airflow. They just alienate us. That's what this whole thing was designed to do. It was perpetrated by a few very powerful people that had a political and financial agenda, mostly political, and that was to divide us as a community. And you guys have helped facilitate it, and you need to reverse that. And people that went before me have tried to address that and how you can do that. Jane, you need to calm down and err on the side of your constituents. That was unbelievable. Are you guys gonna edit that outburst like you did the one several months ago when she tried to get everybody to mask up and social distance in here? You should let the community see it. Anyway, my mouth is getting dry, and I thank you for your attention. Community, relax, enjoy yourself. The mandates aren't laws. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Bohr, for coming out.
My name is Heidi Berry Retley. I am from Lincoln. First and foremost, I was very disappointed in the treatment of my dear friend Samuel Lyon. It reminded me much of very controlling teachers that did cause children harm in elementary school and junior high and high school. And Jean, I would say I'm very disappointed in that type of behavior. Indeed, I could not hear out in the hall. But I prefer being in here. I think there is so much to be said about looking in people's eyes, because the eyes are the window to a person's soul. And I want to be able to see you. I want to be able to encourage those that are leading in a servant leadership style. Any good leader is going to understand that we are to be servant leaders. Across the board, I've learned this from CEOs, and I will tell you, if elected officials do not listen and implement what their constituents voted them in to do, they will be taken out. I will say I was part of LNK recall, and it was a privilege for me to get to visit with people in the community, to hear the heartbeat of the community. We are a group of Republicans, and I myself, I'm a Democrat. But what I overwhelmingly continue to hear is people across the board. It didn't matter what party you were affiliated with. They were concerned with the draconian measures that have been done via our mayor. They said that they honestly kind of felt sorry for each of you in terms of feeling, it appeared as though you guys feel masked, censored in what you can and cannot do. What I really came here ultimately to talk about is the number of people that I get calls from on a weekly basis. It's a mental health issue now. That is superseding. And we have a 99+ % recovery rate of a so-called virus. I think Bob has done a good job of educating people. I would echo much of what he says in terms of the medical side of things. I will say this, there's not a week that passes that I don't hear from at least 7 people, and I'm talking these are strong people ordinarily. Everyone from middle school all the way up into their 70s. And these people are crying out. These masks are absolute. I hear from teachers. I got a phone call just today from a principal that retired, part of LPS. And he said, this is absolutely an egregious, categoric, it's crimes against humanity. And he says he's hearing from teachers, people that are a part of LPS, and they are so concerned about these children and what is happening. The suicide level in children, kids, teens, actually I'm going to back up, 31%. There was a 31% increase in 2020, reported anxiety and depression. A 26% reported trauma or stress-related symptoms due to masks. 11% say they seriously considered suicide. 70% of kids, all kids, said they are overwhelmed and worried. And parents, 44% of parents say that kids are struggling with mental illness. I hear this time and time again, and it's in your hands to take these measures, whatever we want to call them. We've got to take them out of the hands of the mayor. It's time. And people are watching all over the world what we are doing right here in Lincoln, Nebraska. I cannot emphasize that enough. And you all can leave a powerful legacy by doing what is right and taking those draconian measures back. And ultimately, Pat Lopez needs to absolutely stop inciting fear in our precious elderly, our children, and everyone in between. I will continue to pray for you because biblically, we are to pray for our leadership. And I want you to know it's first and foremost that I will do that for each of you. I know, Michael Bowers, that you have a real concern about depression as well. That's something that you've stated. I implore you, I really hope that you will do the right thing and have the mayor stop this absolutely egregious overreach. God bless each of you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Mr. Jimmy Light.
Hey, how's it going? Jimmy Light. I fight the good fight. I'm here for the Omaha Benson Bunnies. Mike's Towing, thank you. Restar Towing, thank you. Free Ernest Jackson. And Hex Cryptocurrency. That's right. Now I have a question. Is this how our city council conducts itself to earn our respect? Issuing political gag orders with the excuse of not knowing how the word implements? I call it how I see it. Straight up hypocrites. Goddamn hypocrisy. I don't know, as an excuse can only go so far. This legal body is fueled by an illegal facade, backed by fiat money operating under fiat law. Ross Jimmy Lightbringer, sheriff, police chief, still stuck in the past. I came here today to clean out my closet so we can see our city progress. Please excuse me for a moment while I'm only human, but I got a vent to get some of that stress off of my chest. I promise you, I love my state. We're Nebraska, born, corn-fed, and raised. I promise you, Lincoln, my city is the best. And I will never leave my people, whether it's in this life or whether it's in the life after death. Truly, the blind lead the blind. That's why it's important to be as kind as you possibly can. Hidden in the herd, though, there's a select few of bad actors, imposters, mangy cur slick hiding their true nature underneath the guise of public safety as a coat for their woolly fur. But I got a question. Is this how my peers conduct themselves to earn our respect? I'm talking to the Bransel cats, the Wake folk, D-Mail fogs. Big ups to the most honorable mention of them all, Kazari Dwal, spiritual Doss Cressers Tardin Ghoul. You look dark on the outside, but I'm more concerned on what we're finding within. A judge by the contents of your character and not by the color of your skin. Protecting those same dying ideologies, riding more white frolic than my rainbow friends. Sure, go ahead. You can post it up online. I'm sure it'll say something like, hashtag cancel Jimmy Light every time. Please don't forget, you can cry and scream. How can we get this toxic masculinity off of our screens? I, Sheriff Wordsmith with authority. The truth is an offense, not a sin. Keyboard warriors got a lot of bum to gump, but whenever we look around, you're called out and you ain't nowhere to be found. Seems like the only way to process it is to get physically upset. Get on your vlog on your little social web and you have to miserably vent. Let's get the record straight. Mr. Light slams gavels. I don't want none of your see-through, petty-like, snowflake, gown-wearing, microaggressive, having-ass followers. All you got is these wannabe black, white-looking, middle-aged mothers wearing trashy spaghetti straps trying to cover up those full-blown whack-ratchet tats, perpetuating those same damn toxic traits. All you're doing is giving racism a new face, trashing the label Karen, even though everyone knows Karen is someone else's name. Toxic, bass-ackwards internet culture. You can go buy a mirror if you're looking for someone else to blame. Because honestly, my peers are soft. We're either pissed on or we're pissed off. The only precedent we like to set for the rest of the world is to get what you want. You have to cry and go whine to your mom. Well, there you go, Lincoln, F it, I'm done. Let me know when you find some culture, because it's obvious we ain't got none. Lincoln some pop trolls on a world tour to sell out. Sold our souls along with our spines to some banking parasitic cartel bums who just so happen to be in bed with these wicked politicians. Now, I need everyone to pay very close attention. Involuntary servitude is the next big up honorable mention. The bureaucratic lawmaker will say if you want change, all you got to do is start a petition. We did that very successfully. And what do we get? A corrupt sheriff with some dirty judges using their powers, titles, and positions to pervert the last spoon-fed tool given to us as a chance to get a little change up in that legal system.
Mr. Light, your time is up.
Two-faced politicians. Constantly, you're telling us you're looking out for our best interests. Why is it then a casino is being built in our holy temple while that seven-sided herb gets criticized and forbidden? Almost done. Okay. Oh, and don't let me forget to mention, legalize it right now and free Ernest Jackson. That's an innocent man locked up in our prison. Any questions?
Thank you for coming out, Mr. Light.
Thank you. You guys are all awesome. I love you guys. Thank you.
I don't have those poetic abilities. Good evening, council members. My name is Mary Hilton. And I just wanted to come up and just to speak with you about the obvious lack of constituents in this room. And this has been going on for many months now. And you have been able to vote without having to look into the eyes of your constituents. And I believe that that leaves a gap in it. It doesn't, when you allow this open forum to take place, there is a check on your power, because you have to look your constituents in the eyes as you cast your vote. And there is an important community aspect of having your constituents in here. They feel part of the process. They believe that they're being heard. They're able to come in with others. You are to be a voice to them. Each citizen is represented by 4 of you. You're protecting their freedoms, providing a check at City Hall. Last week, I was able to come to the Lincoln-Lancaster County Planning Commission meeting, and there were people in this chamber in all the open seats. Not, they pulled the trash bags off many of the seats, but there were people in here. They had to vote with people opposing and supporting them. And that's how I would encourage things from tonight on, after tonight, to open this, to be an open forum where the people are allowed to be in here. They deserve to be in this room. They need to be heard. And I hope that you will change the rules so that they can be a part. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Fanshawn. I just want to add what Mary just said. I came to the county board this week, and we were allowed to sit in these empty seats that don't have garbage bags. Okay, thank you, Councilman Roy Christensen, for attempting to allow the public to speak on your resolution tonight. Benny and Sandra, I want to thank you both for voting yes to remove the item from pending. I hope you did that for the right reasons and not because you're up for re-election this spring. I'm here tonight to speak on 20R-122. I guess that's at least one resolution you haven't placed a gag order on yet. The public deserves to be part of the conversation. The public has been excluded from the conversation for 345 days. We, the people, are being silenced here in our chambers and on social media. Enough is enough. This goes against our First Amendment rights. I believe the mayor, being an elected official, is overusing these powers, just like her former boss, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Look how that state is doing, where I did live for 11 years. Do we want that to happen here or continue here? The mayor needs to come before the council and we, the people. Jane, are you listening?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. We, the people, to justify why she feels to be entitled 345 days of powers. Also, we, the people, who are now awakened to local politics, including different boards within Lancaster County, are requesting these hideous garbage bags, which were put here under the pretense of protecting us from the CCP virus, that they be taken off so we, the people, can once again come in and sit in our chambers and be present for complete transparency for all city council and all other board meetings. The hypocrisy of it is we are being made to hang out in the outer noisy hallway where we cannot hear clearly, especially when Johans was up here, I had to go find and stand underneath a speaker so I could hear him. You should be able to take your masks off. You're sitting, apart, and we have all this plastic. Anyway, the noisy hall where we cannot hear clearly what is going on inside the people's chambers. The smallest amount of chatter is distracting, and the people being forced to watch on the monitor rather than being in this chamber is unnecessary. With the mayor's dial being in yellow and cases have dropped, we need to get our city and these seats open now. It's a sham. I wasn't going to say the rest, but after tonight, what happened, I'm going to. I've been attending council and different board meetings here in Lancaster County, and I'm being enlightened on several things. When Kate Bolts lost her congressional race to Congressman Fortenberry, she was then hired by her good friend, the mayor, with a salary of $87,500 a year. I attended the county board meeting this week, and lo and behold, Mr. Flowerday sits on this board with a salary of almost $50,000 and full benefits, which comes from our tax dollars. He's the fiance of Kate Bolts. Also, Mr. Flowerday now works in the legislature with another salary that comes from the state. He's an aide to my senator, Elliot Bostar. So my point being is, wow, how Democrats are so intertwined in this city. I'm hoping that this starts to wake even more people up and will make conservatives upset as I am and run for office. Thank you.
Thank you, Fanchon.
Hi, my name is Susan. I really don't want to repeat everything that was said because I agree with the majority of what has been stated here tonight. 20R122, ED, the brides are being fear-mongered. My brides, I've rescheduled 40 amendments. My doors aren't open like some of the big boxers. $400,000. I'm not very happy and the brides aren't. They're sitting at the table crying. These 20-year-olds, they don't know what to do. I want you to hear the other side. What's your constituents? What's going on? They're crying. They're looking to me for answers. They want answers. I said, you can take that mask off if you'd like while we sit here and talk. I don't know what to do. My wedding. You closed us down, Mayor Larian. You closed us down. We abide by what you wanted us to do. We did that. But these dials, just fear-mongering. The people, we the people, the constituents. But you get to open your doors. People can come in, touch all the cans in the stores, look at them, purchase, go to Walmart, Menards, Super Saver, Russ's Hy-Vee, touch all the cans, the product, and then they go touch the steering wheel on their car. No more. Stop fear-mongering. Please, I ask you, Mayor, in a kind way, let's open this city back up. Please? Thank you for your time, for listening. I'm speaking for the younger ones out there that have no voice. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here? Okay.
Mr. Chair, seeing no one else ready to come forward, I will say, remember the golden rule, and I move adjournment.
Moved by Christensen, seconded by Washington. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Christensen,
Yes.
Ribbold,
Yes.
Schob,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Bowers.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.